Development Agency regular meeting of September 23rd, 2008 to order. If we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your heads. God, please give us the intelligence and especially the wisdom to make some good decisions tonight for the people of Newman. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
Yeah.
Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember King, Councilmember Kelly,
Here.
Councilmember Crinclaw,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Martina,
Present.
Mayor Fantasy.
Declaration of conflicts of interest. There being none tonight. No, we don't have no ceremonial matters. Items from the public, non-agenda items. If anyone has anything, this is the time to bring it to the council. If there's nothing, is there any? Okay, thank you. Consent calendar. Waive all reading of ordinance and resolutions except by title. Approval of warrants. Approval of minutes of September 9th, 2008 regular meeting.
Need a motion, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I make a motion we approve.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. No public hearings tonight. Regular business. Second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2008, next number, an ordinance approving the Mattis Ranch Subdivision Development Agreement.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. At our last meeting on September 9th, excuse me, I'm in a brain seizure there for a second. This item was presented to the council. It's a development agreement for a previously approved project that was approved in 2006. What this does is it extends the life of the project for additional years, an additional 3 years. It's a 7-year agreement with the developer. It sets out developer performance requirements as well as city requirements. What it does for us is it allows us, the city, to collect 2 additional fees or to establish 2 additional fees. One is a $2,000 per lot aquatic center supplemental fee, and there's a $3,000 a lot community benefit fee. Now, the community benefit fee is a fee that is going to be allowed at council discretion for projects. The only caveat or only language within this agreement is it cannot be used to subsidize another project. So at after that, the council has full discretion on how to use the $3,000 a lot. And basically what the community benefit fee is, it's a buy-in into the community. Longtime residents have been here for a number of years and continue to pay property taxes and sales taxes. This is a buy-in to our existing infrastructure system. So all told, there's $530,000 that the city will be able to use, of which is the $318,000 for the community benefit fee, but we also just raised $212,000 for the Newman Aquatic Center. So that's another example of how the city is trying to move forward and get this project moving. So with that, I can entertain any questions that you have regarding this.
No questions? No questions.
One question. These fees will be collected when they pull the permits.
These fees are collected at the time they pull their building permit. That's correct.
Thank you. Could we have some direction from the council, please?
I make a motion that we pass the second reading and adoption of the ordinance an ordinance approving the Mattis Ranch Subdivision Development Agreement.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. I'm going fast tonight. We're really going
You're
fast.
good.
This is lightning.
Yeah, John's not that good.
I think I'm going to have a sidebar right now. Anyway, at this time, Supervisor Jim DiMartini, if you could come before us, please, and give your report.
Jim, try to make it quick.
Thank you, Jim. Next.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Martina and council members. I will try and make this quick. I don't want this meeting to go on till midnight tonight. So I just had a couple of things on the agenda is worth mentioning. On September 17th, we had a meeting here in Newman on the Orestima Creek flood control project, where the Corps of Engineers did present their options. Some of them were quite expensive, and so there were several options considered. We've taken a few of them off the table, and originally we had hoped that the detention dam would probably be the best thing. It actually would be the only project that would solve all of the problem. But the cost of that came in at $86 million, and the cost benefit of that didn't look very good. So there were some options for increasing the flow through Orestima Creek, building up Stir Road to act as a levee, and also to put a bypass channel, which is basically a drain ditch into the San Joaquin River to drain the water off. We have a conference call coming up, I believe October 2nd, to go over the cost of these options. And then I think once the option is taken, the next question will be, where's the money going to come from? There is some federal money, there is some state money, mostly federal, but there has to be some local money too. But this project, as you know, has been studied to death for years, and we have spent now $3 million on studies. We have studied everything, from the plants, to the hydrology, to the soil, to the sycamore trees, to the kit fox that's not there, to the frogs that aren't there, and different alternatives for 100-year floods, 200 years, 500 years, and I'm glad it's finally coming to an end now that we actually did have some good information. So the bad news is that no matter what you do, it's going to be expensive. It's going to be over $20 million to fix this problem, and that's not a really great fix either. The great fix would be $86 million. So anyway, progress is being made though, finally, and we will probably have more of this next month. The only other thing I wanted to mention was the animal shelter expansion plan. The Board of Supervisors today did give notice of termination for all contract cities. And this is not necessarily a bad thing. This is just to get the ball rolling on a new contract for our shelter expansion plan, and a different level of partnership between the cities that would like to go into a joint powers agreement for a new shelter and participate in the management. Now, as you know, our shelter today is very outdated. It's disease prone because of the building materials that it's made out of. There is an emphasis today, different than when the shelter was built, to emphasize adoption and spaying and neutering. The old shelter that we're using was built in the early 70s. It was nothing more than a depository for animals that were euthanized usually the next day. Today, because of the Hayden Law, things are different. Costs are much higher because the animals have to be kept several days, and there is an emphasis on adoption. So you're housing animals in two different areas now, and sometimes for long periods of time. So the shelter has to be completely replaced, and it's probably about $11 million project. The good part for Newman is that your percentage of animals that go into there is only 2% of the total, so it's a fairly minor cost for the city. So the contracts were terminated today, but that doesn't mean the county's unhappy about anything. It just means that it's time to start over again and come up with a new plan. So, you'll be hearing more about it. So.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Thanks.
Any questions?
Yes.
Items from the city manager and staff.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just briefly on the Orestima Creek project, we did have that meeting, and I want to personally thank Supervisor DeMartini and their Public Works Director, Matt Machado, who's done an excellent job of managing this project for us. And, when Matt Machado, their new Public Works Director, came on board, he did not miss a beat in keeping this project moving forward, and he is very on top of the Army Corps of Engineers. And so we're very lucky to have an advocate like Supervisor DeMartini and Matt Machado on our team. So on 11/11, that's November 11th, I believe that's a holiday. That's also a night, Tuesday night, for a meeting. I wanted to see how the council wanted to handle that meeting date. Was that going to be, do we want to continue with the meeting on that day, or do we want to move it to a new date on the Monday before? I can also bring this request back on the next meeting in October, so we have a full council. But I wanted to give you a heads up that that's something the staff's looking at right now. And by the first meeting in October, we prefer to have an answer. So we have a bid that's scheduled to go out for a sewer line replacement, and we want to award that bid at that meeting. So we prefer that you don't cancel the meeting, because the second meeting in November is typically canceled because that's Thanksgiving week. So if we don't have it on Tuesday 11th, we respectfully request that maybe you move it to Monday the 10th. So we can.
The 11th is a holiday for the city then.
That's my understanding. Yes. Veterans Day. That was
Veterans Day.
Veterans Day.
Yeah, some people take it and some people don't.
So.
I have to work, but that's okay.
So anyway, I'll bring that back up at the next meeting, but I wanted to give you a heads up on that.
Thank you.
We did, and as I've been reporting out to you, we were able to get our Assemblywoman Kathleen Galgiani get her involved with our wastewater treatment plant project, and she was able to get the director from the Regional Water Quality Control Board into her office today for a meeting. That meeting was attended by our Public Works Director, myself, Councilman Caton, who's not here today, and our consultant, the Professor, Rich Stoll. And lo and behold, we will be getting a letter of approval within a week. So I think she was quite embarrassed, because with all due respect to her, I don't think her staff was giving her all the information she needed to make an informed decision. I think they were kind of stringing it along, and she just actually had to receive the brunt of it, because myself and Rich Stoll, really kind of took her to task about, this is getting way out of hand. We were prepared to do this project in 2007. Here we are in 2008. Now we're not going to be able to build it till 2009. You're holding up our funding. All this project is doing is gaining cost, because this project is really about fuel cost. This project is about pushing earth, building up levees, earthen dams, if you will, to keep the water inside, to build a storage facility. So every time the diesel costs go up, every time fuel costs go up, our cost of our project goes up. So we made sure we shared that with her. So again, within the next week, we should be getting a letter of approval. So I know I talked to Councilmember Crinclaw about this. There's some articles in the President Modesto B that kind of concern us, and that's the sales tax issue that's going on, and that's with the fuel wholesalers and retailers like Brashears, and that's a big cause of concern for us. We are actually working right now with HDL, who's our consultant, to try to figure out what that impact's going to be to us if, for instance, that contract is allowed to go through and they put all their points of sale in Modesto. So all the sales tax that could have been generated from the local gas station Brashears would then be registered to Modesto, and they would get all the revenue. So we fully intend to pursue this, and we will not let it happen. That's a big cost for us. I know there's other cities, I believe Livermore or Fremont, one of those two cities over there, the two of those cities are fighting right now over the same type of thing. So that's something that we'll be actively pursuing. I don't know if the city attorney has any other communities that's going to be affected by that, but we definitely want to take an attack on this and not let this happen. So with that, I know we do have closed session that is scheduled today. I don't have anything to report, so I will go ahead and cancel that if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mike. Staff?
Good evening to everyone. Tonight I just have a little bit of show and tell. This is our $92,000 CMAQ Sidewalk Infield project. And so here we're looking on Kern Street
from Mill Street over to M Street. The section of the sidewalk has been completed. The driveway into the alley there, that was a pretty broken and sunken down, and it had a real problem with drainage, so that improved it. Next slide is looking at the intersection of L Street and Kern. And again, you can see the new curb returns and for handicap ramps. Next slide. This is looking at the west entrance of the Amy Drive Loop, and you can see the ongoing work there. They're working on the returns, and they've also relocated a fire hydrant in this area, plus one of the drain inlets. And then the last slide is looking toward the east, to the east entrance to the Amy Drive Loop, and then Eucalyptus Avenue in the distance, and that's the end of the project limits. So they'll probably get this done pretty much by the end of the week. So they're going to come back to do a little bit of backfills around in the backs of the sidewalks, and then also where they did their curb cuts, they need to come back in and replace the base and put in the new pavement. But that pretty much in a nutshell shows you what they've done right away and completed, and so the project will pretty soon come before you for a notice of completion. Any questions?
Looks nice, Ernie.
Very
Ernie,
good.
what are those tall green things?
I think those are trees. You can find them over at Creek Canyon Drive.
Thank you very much. Ernie.
Get my shot in.
Good evening, council members. As you may know, today the governor finally signed the state budget, so staff is looking into what effects it might have on the general fund. Right now, we do know that we will be keeping the COPS grant. We should still get that, which is $100,000 a year. It looks like we'll be taking a hit to our RDA, which is about $83,261. So far, those are the impacts that we're aware of. We'll be reevaluating our budget quarterly, right?
Mhm.
And mid-year as well. And we'll go from there. But they finally did sign it. And the auditors came today. So far, so good. Knock on wood. They'll be here till Thursday. Hopefully, they'll go home before that. But so far, things are going well. Does anybody have any questions?
So now I'm just wondering, how are we okay then? I mean, even with these budget?
Well,
I
we
mean, with
have
the state coming
some
in.
bigger hits than we had originally thought when we did the budget. The county was telling us that our property tax would be a 14% decrease, and it ended up being a 19% decrease. And then what was our other?
VLF
That's right. The VLF was another $170,000.
VLF is vehicle licensing fees.
Which is also based on the property taxes, and so we didn't take that into account, and that's why we're going to reevaluate the budget, and we'll do a full budget revision this year. We haven't done that in the past, but we'll be doing that this year. So, a couple hits, but we saved so far from what we could see with the end of the year. We did better than we expected. We did a lot in cutting the expenses back for 07-08, so the hit won't be as big for 08-09.
Good.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Councilman, the VLF fees or vehicle licensing fees are now tied to property tax due to what's called the triple flip, which I'm sure all of us could give dissertations on at this particular point in time. It's very complicated, but again, we'll be bringing back the budget before you here shortly, and also giving you a quarterly update at your first meeting in October.
Okay. Any other staff members?
You're good. I'm happy for you.
Okay. Okay, then items from the city council, excuse me.
I'm fine.
You're fine.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I have nothing this evening. Thank you.
Okay, I just had one question from Tom. We had talked about homes that have been abandoned, and I was just wondering if there was any update on that law.
There's no update on that law. However, I have discovered a way to go after all of the other ones in addition to the ones that have been foreclosed on.
Oh, very good.
And we'll come back with an emergency ordinance, I think.
Excellent.
Probably, well, we'll shoot for your we'll try for that meeting, that first meeting in October.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good news. I know that when you drive around our city, you see a lot of lawns that are dried up and just people abandon the homes, and it's terrible. And it certainly takes away from the value of the people that are trying to sell their homes, and so the quicker we can get that law on the books, the better, I think, for the city of Newman. And I have nothing else. We're going to adjourn now to closed session. So if I can have a motion. I'm sorry.
No closed session
Yeah,
today.
no closed session tonight.
Oh, no
Even though
closed
you
session.
had it on there, but we revised the
That's
agenda
what he
after.
said. Yeah, we're done.
Well, then I need a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion to adjourn.
Second it.
You guys can go home and enjoy your family.
You are